So everyone thinks Max Holloway is winning this fight, and honestly, they might be right, but I think if Charles wins, it will be like this, and I think it's going to be violent. What's up, guys? So we've recently watched Brandon Moreno lose to Loner Kavanaugh, which means what we got next is Max Holloway versus Charles Oliveira. Now, I've been scared of this fight, dude. Like, there's been so many times where, like, I'll be, like, looking at the ceiling at night, and my girlfriend's sitting beside me in bed, and she's like, oh, he's probably thinking about other girls. But really, I'm just up fearing for Charles Oliveira, dude. It's awful. You know, picking who I wanted to win this fight was like a parent picking their favorite child. And like my mom, I made an easy decision. And like me, I did not pick Max Holloway, dude. My sister's my mom's favorite. Charles is my favorite. But these are two of my favorite fighters, and I really do not want to see either of them lose. But we're going to have to see one of them lose. It can't be a double knockout because these two are both badass motherfuckers, and they're both going to go out there and try to get it done. So we're going to talk about why. We're going to talk about who I think is going to win, talk about who they are as fighters, talk about what their keys to victories are, and talk about why I think Charles Oliveira has a better chance than a lot of people are giving him credit for. So without any further ado, let's get into this fight breakdown because it is a banger. The rest of the card's not looking so good. I think they just gave up on giving it a co-main, which is like, what the fuck? But like, who needs a co-main when the main event's this good? They do. They really do, bro. It's just like, this is such a fucking fire main event. And it deserves a better co-main than two, like, mid-range middleweights coming off a fucking loss, dude. Like, don't get me wrong. I think DeRitter versus Brahalio is going to be a banger decision win. But I don't think it's good enough to be the main event. The feature fight, sure, bro. That could be a feature fight all night. But give us something cool for the main event. Any of, like, the fight night main events I just announced? Okay, not any of them. A lot of them aren't good, too. But, you know, like, fucking Sean Brady versus Buckley or, like, Burns versus Malott even. You know, so stuff like that would be a cool co-main. But, you know, here we are. And, yeah, let's get into it, like I said. All right, so we're going to go ahead and break down Max Holloway first. And we know what kind of fighter Max Holloway is. You know, Max Holloway's the volume guy. Max Holloway's the guy who's going to get in the pocket. He's going to land a clean combination. He's going to get out of the pocket. He's just going to keep creating these exchanges that he will win. You know what I mean? And either by volume or damage, he takes rounds. Now, Max Holloway doesn't get a lot of finishes. He's kind of known for having pillow hands, but he did move up to 155, and he does have more power there. But the thing about Max recently is his chin hasn't been as good as it used to be. He's got dropped in his last 3 fights. Now, Max Holloway is elite striking. He doesn't have any holes in his striking game. He even, like, looked the best against Ilya than anybody has. You know what I mean? Max Holloway is just so clean. He's so technical. He's so fast. He has such a long reach. But Charles' reach is longer. And I don't think Max is used to fighting people who can stay further away than he can. You know, Max Holloway is such a pocket fighter. And Charles Oliveira can reach him before he gets into the pocket. Now, I'll talk about why I don't think that'll happen, but maybe it should in a second. But yeah, Max Holloway can hit you from anywhere. He's so clean in with the combinations. He has weird combinations where he'll mix up like a head, body, body, head, body. And he just doesn't stop, you know what I mean? He'll get out of the pocket and then make people kind of chase him. And then when he does want to get hit, he jumps into the pocket, lands a couple of hits, and gets back out. He's such a clean boxer. He has elite kicks. He doesn't use them as much. He has great spinning kicks, great kicks all around. The one kind of hole in Max Holloway's game is that he doesn't have great leg kick defense. But that being said, I don't know how big of an issue it'll be. Charles does have good leg kicks. And obviously, Charles is way more dangerous on the ground. But Max Holloway does have a bulletproof takedown defense. All right, now let's talk about Charles Bronx Oliveira, dude. I'm so excited to watch Charles fight. It's kind of awful. My girlfriend's birthday is March 9th. Obviously, this event is March 7th. And my girlfriend said she had to buy something so it'd get shipped in time for her birthday. I'm like, is it that close? What are you talking about? And she's like, yeah, my birthday's in 3 weeks. And like, I knew the date her birthday was, right? I just didn't realize how close it was. And that's what I told her. And she's like, yeah, when's Charles Oliveira fight? I'm like, oh, 2 weeks. Y'all should see the look I got, bro. She's like, you love Charles Oliveira more than you love me. And I'm like, no, I don't. No, I don't. But I love Charles Oliveira. He's one of, like, I got into the sport in 2020. I watched the whole Oliveira run, dude. Just all the adversity he faced, just his story, just the way he carries himself. I love Charles, dude. I love Max, too. But Charles is my favorite. And I'm so excited. And I'm really hoping he can get this win. But let's break him down. Obviously, Charles Oliveira has an elite ground game. Most finishes in UFC history. If he gets you on the ground, it's going to be dangerous. He has really good striking, too. Underrated striking, I feel like. Charles Oliveira, he's not as fast as Max, but he hits harder than Max. I think he's stronger than Max, too. Now, Max does have more power at 155, but I still don't think he's going to be able to hit as hard as Charles Oliveira does. If you asked, like, a lot of the lightweights in interviews have said Charles Oliveira has hit the hardest out of any of the guys they've fought. And like I said, Max Holloway has been dropped in his last 3 fights, so I can see Charles Oliveira dropping him. And that's the thing, Max Holloway doesn't have a killer instinct. You know, I think he could have finished Dustin Poirier. I think there's many other fights in his career where he's just okay winning a decision because you don't want to take risks, which is a smart way to fight. But Charles Oliveira, if he drops you, it's over. It's lights out. Charles Oliveira drops Max Holloway. Like, say that elbow we had against Elias. Say he lands that against Max Holloway. Max Holloway is going down, and Charles is on top of him. He's hitting ground and pound. He's going for a submission. And we haven't really seen Max on the ground too much just because his takedown defense is so good and he doesn't go for the ground. You know, Max is just such a good striker and has such good takedown defense. We don't know how he really is on the ground. Obviously, Charles is going to go in there, and he's hard to get out of, dude. Charles is just so long and lengthy. He's got legs going everywhere, and all of it's tactical. All of it is so technical. Charles Oliveira is just so skilled on the ground. If he can get Max down there, I think he just takes that round, you know? Maybe Max can get up. I'm so disappointed that Max gets. I love Max, but it's so hard, dude. It's so hard. But I think Charles Oliveira can drop Max, can get Max to the ground, and if he does, that round is his. Now, I think Charles' key to victory here is getting it done early, because we know Max has better cardio going into rounds 4 and 5. And if Max goes into rounds 4 and 5 knowing he's up, he's not going to take risks. If he knows he's up, he's not going to step forward. He's not going to put himself in situations where Charles can drop him, which I think is kind of a detriment to Charles here, because Max is a smart fighter, and Max knows when he's winning. And he knows how to keep himself in danger while still landing some volume so he still gets rounds. I think Charles needs to push the pace on early. I think Charles cannot be content with losing the early rounds. Because Max Holloway's cardio is so good and his volume is so good, you know, he can really go 100 significant strikes around for 5 rounds and look fine after. And we don't really know how his wrestling cardio is, you know, if Charles is around on top of him and Max gasses out doing that. But just based off his striking cardio, I want to say his wrestling cardio has to be at least decent, you know what I mean? And here's another thing, though. When Dustin did drop Max Holloway, he did it in the clinch. And who is the best clinch striker in the UFC? Charles Oliveira is, bro. I think that's one of Charles' key to victory. I think he needs to keep distance. When Max goes in the pocket, get in the clinch, go for some clinch strikes. Now, Max Holloway is a guy where he likes to jump in the pocket, jump out of the pocket. While Charles, he's always just pressuring, dude. He's always walking forward. He's always just going at it, dude. Like, if Max Holloway jumps in the pocket, Charles is going to land shots. If Max Holloway jumps out, Charles is going to keep pursuing him. And I think Charles, what he needs to do is work on his space management. I think Charles has a longer reach. He needs to use that here. You know, maybe when Max gets into the pocket, go for a jab, go for a teep. You know, obviously, Charles has elite leg sweeps. He uses those a lot. And he's added some pickups and slams into his game, like we saw him do against Gamrot. Gamrot is such an elite wrestler, and we saw Charles completely bitch him. So I do think he has a chance there with the wrestling to be able to take Max down. I don't see him going out there and throwing double legs and taking Max down like that. But if he gets him into a clinch, locks his hands under Max's legs and picks him up and slams him, what's Max do at that point? You know what I mean? Obviously, Charles can jump on his back, go for like a backpack body lock or whatever that fucking shit's called. I don't even know the technical terms, but y'all know what I mean. That shit he did to Chandler, and then fucking Chandler jumped on him. Y'all seen that. Y'all seen that. But yeah, I think if Charles can get into the clinch, he can land some clean clinch strikes. But here's what I'm most scared of. Obviously, Max Holloway is going to go for the 1s and 2s, and Max Holloway's rights are so dangerous. He puts a lot of power into those. He clubs into those, especially at 155, he has more power. And we know Charles gets drops, and we know Charles doesn't have the best high guard. Now, this is what we saw Max Holloway drop Dustin Poirier with. We saw him drop Dustin Poirier with some clean right twos, just through his high guard like that. And I think he can do the exact same thing to Charles Oliveira. But when we know Charles has problems with his chin, we know Charles gets dropped easy. Now, here's kind of the thing with that. We know Charles is kind of known to let himself get dropped to play possum. Like, obviously not letting himself get hit, but letting himself fall when he does get hit so that the other guy will jump on top of him and get into his guard. Because Charles Oliveira is so dangerous on the ground from the bottom or the top, it doesn't matter if you're if you get on top of him. Even if you're on top, you're in danger. Now, Max Holloway's smart. Max Holloway knows this. So in a lot of the times where he put heavy damage and almost finished Poirier, it was with ground and pound. And I don't think he's going to pursue ground and pound against Charles. I think he knows it's too dangerous. I think he knows Charles plays possum. I don't think he's going to be able to do that. I think if he drops Charles and Charles gets on the ground, Charles is going to kind of pull guard, and Max Holloway is going to force a stand-up, which I think will be a key to Max Holloway winning, which isn't what I want to have. I'm still talking about both sides here. But yeah, I think Max Holloway's key to win is just go out there, win the first 2 rounds, don't take risks, which is a boring way to win. But I think that's his best way to win is to not take risks. Just be Max Holloway, you know, throw volume, let Charles be content with losing rounds, and then use your better cardio in the late rounds once you're up to just not take risks and keep going. I think that's how Max Holloway wins. Let's talk about how Charles wins. Charles just has that killer instinct. Charles, if he hurts you, if he drops you, he's on top of you, and his goal is to get you out cold. Whether that be through submission, whether that be through ground and pound. And Charles Oliveira is a killer. That's why he has the most finishes in UFC history. If Charles Oliveira can get you to the ground, then it's dangerous. Now, we'll see how Max Holloway does if he gets put in a situation like that. But Max Holloway, he drops you. He's going to let Charles stand. He's not going to go for that finish. Charles, if he gets Max on the ground, Charles is all over him. It's like a spider, just, yeah, that. Y'all know what I mean, bro. I think that's Charles' key to victory. I think Charles needs to get this done in the first 3 rounds. You know, we have seen Charles slow down in the later rounds like we haven't seen Max do. I think Charles needs to go in there. He needs to be aggressive. I think he needs to just keep pushing Max. I think he needs to push the pace. I think he needs to initiate the clinch, go for some elbows, go for some knees. Charles has great knees. I think he just needs to go in there, pick Max up, slam him down, get him on the ground. I think he needs to drop him because Max Holloway is droppable. His chin isn't, even though he's at 155, his chin's still not as good as it used to be. Max Holloway is capable of getting dropped, and if Charles drops him, that's what he needs to do. He needs to get on top of him. He needs to win. Now, I do think Charles can win a decision, but I think if it goes to decision, it's going to go to Max. And I think if it ends in a finish, it's going to go to Charles. Now, obviously, other than Ilia Topuria, we've never seen anyone finish Max since his very first fight in his debut against Dustin Poirier. But I think Charles is capable of finishing anyone. I think Charles is one of the most dangerous fighters of all time. I do think Charles can finish this. Now, I am going to pick Max by decision to win, but I think Charles can go in there, and I think he can get it done. I think if we see locked-in Charles, I think if we see hungry Charles, he can go in there and make this happen. I want to see Charles win this BMF belt, dude. Obviously, he's 2-2 in his last 4 fights. I think if he loses this, loses another one, he's just done. And I think Max Holloway is getting towards the tail end, too, but he's got more time left than Charles. You know, I think Max Holloway can easily bounce back from a win. I think if Charles wins this, he's going to fight BSD. If he beats BSD, he's right back in that title picture. And I don't think Ilia is going to be around that long. I think, realistically, if that happens, we can see Charles fight for the belt again. Now, what's in this for Max if he wins? If Max wins, same thing, I'll probably fight BSD. If he wins, I get the Ilia rematch, which is a great fight, which I'd love to see if he does get it. But Arman's still in there waiting. Obviously, Justin Gaethje gets the first shot. You know, I don't know. I just want to see Charles win. I don't want to see Charles lose, bro. I feel like Charles and Volk are like the 2 fighters I watch, and I just feel the most stressful watching them just because I feel like I'm watching I feel like I'm a parent watching my kid out there, dude. And I'm just so stressed that they're going to lose. I can't even bet on their fights. It's awful. I actually did bet on Charles versus Gamrot 1 month. That's not the point, though. That's not the point. I typically don't bet on their fights just because I'm so scared. And I don't want to make it worse. I feel like I'm jinxing them. But I am picking Max to win. But I am going to be rooting for Charles. I want to see Charles win, and I think it can happen. We need to see locked-in Charles. We need to see Illuminated-by-God Charles. We need to see Bronx. Bro, I'm so hyped for this fight. I'm so excited for it. I'm so nervous, but let me know what you guys think of the fight. Let me know what you guys are most excited for this weekend. Let me know if you think the rest of the card is bad. As always, this is Hard Takes MMA. Like the video. Comment Bronx. Comment Max. Comment who you want to win. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe. It really help me out. And as always, stay hard. Hey, yo.
Got a private jet, but I stay up in the shadows. They not in the city, yeah, I'm winning all the battles. I'm a billionaire, boy, go check the tag bracket. Black on black suit, yeah, custom made jacket.